Lately, I've been seeing a bunch of videos popping up in my feed about people playing the minimalism game and trying to declutter almost 500 things from their home over the course of 30 days. But I have to admit that as a longtime minimalist, when I saw those videos, I thought to myself, there is absolutely no way that I have 500 things to get rid of in my home. Needless to say, I was 100% wrong about that. Let's be honest, most of us know that we have too much stuff, but struggle to get started. So that's why in today's video, as I challenge myself to declutter 500 items from my own home, I'm inviting you to declutter along with me and see how much stuff you can get rid of as well. Also, if you have a squirrel brain like me and you're scared of losing count as you go, be sure and download this 500 things to declutter checklist that I created specifically for this challenge, which I will be sure to link down in the description and comment box below for you to help keep both of us on track as we declutter. There's a saying that goes, the magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. And I have to admit, I've been procrastinating about decluttering certain areas in my home for a while now. But as I went room by room and zone by zone, tossing broken items, letting go of my decluttering guilt, and saying goodbye to stuff I didn't like or use, something magical happened along the way. So be sure to stick around until the end of the video to find out more about that, along with some helpful tips and tricks on how and where to get rid of clutter. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Okay, so the first zone that I'm tackling today is my front entryway. And the first thing I want to do when I get into this space is just kind of take a look around and take stock of the things that I need to go through and where clutter may have collected. And I'm just going to set my checklist to the side for the moment as I start to pull things out. So this is a tennis racket that has belonged to my youngest son Didi for about 2 years now. However, when we recently started a summer tennis camp, we realized that he had outgrown it and we needed to get a new one. So we don't need this anymore. And then also my kids, while they were playing tennis at the local tennis court, just happened upon someone's pickleball paddle and balls that they say had been left outside for days. And this is a habit I always caution people about as a former hoarder because I also used to be addicted to free stuff and finding free stuff no matter where it was, even if it came to picking up free stuff that was left out in the trash on the side of the road. But one of the biggest lessons that I've learned after almost a decade of minimalism and decluttering is that none of that free stuff is actually free because you're always paying for it in some way, whether that's paying for it and it taking up space or taking up your time and energy. So that's why I am mindfully choosing to get rid of these things. And it's not something that's adding enough joy or value to our life to justify keeping it. So this is something that we got from my youngest son, Didi, when we first moved back to the USA, and it's a Costco brand booster seat. But now he's at a height and weight where he no longer needs this, so we can get rid of it. But one thing I wanted to mention in case you have car seats or booster seats to get rid of is that you need to always check the manufacturing and the expiration dates on those items before you either try to sell or donate them. So every single car seat or booster seat will either have a manufacture date or an expiration date. And typically that's between 6 to 10 years after the item is manufactured, and it depends on the brand of the item. So this one only has a manufactured date of July 2022, which means that it's 3 years old. So it's probably still in the use by window. And one really easy way to get rid of booster seats and car seats that I've seen is that often at Target, they will have donation boxes where you can just take this item in with you when you go to Target and drop it off right there. And then it's easy peasy lemon squeezy and it's out of your hair and out of your life. Another common clutter culprit that people struggle with in their entryway is empty boxes and containers or trash or recycling that needs to be taken out. So, for example, this small box was from a book that I ordered for my son. It's for his summer reading list that he needs to have finished and answer some questions about before he goes back to school, but that we had just left sitting around in our entryway in that box for days without dealing with. So, I'm finally breaking that down now. And then I grabbed a rehoming bin, which is something that I take with me when I'm decluttering so that if I find anything out of place, I can just put it inside of that bin. And then when I'm done decluttering, I can take it back where it goes all at once. And I am keeping this one box, which I'll talk more about later.
Huh?
I don't know if you could tell what just happened, but I literally just found a chip in that box. And now I am wondering, were my kids sneaking chips? Like, what happened here? And this is a surefire recipe for an ant infestation. So I'm really glad that I decided to go through this stuff today, because who knows what would have happened if we let this sitting out here for too long. Okay, now that we've gotten the front entryway clutter taken care of, the next clutter hotspot that I wanted to tackle is our dining room, and specifically the dining room table. Just like any flat surface, dining room tables are often clutter magnets, and ours is no exception. And in fact, right now you can see that we have collected a lot of glow sticks on our dining room table that have just been kind of laying around ever since we had the 4th of July parade that came through our neighborhood, which was absolutely fantastic. And we have created a lot of beautiful core memories together along with our boys. But now that these items have been used up and the glow has faded, we no longer need to keep them lingering around our home. And just so you know, yes, I am counting every single thing under my breath so that I don't lose track of how many items I'm decluttering. Okay, so since those items got us up to 24, I'm gonna show you what I'm doing here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna color in the 10 and the 20, and then I'm gonna use a little erasable pen, or you could use a pencil, just to make a little mark and write 24 in the corner so that I don't forget where I was at. Moving into our kitchen, the next zone I want to tackle is this kind of little command center area where paper clutter tends to collect. And I'm just going to pull it out of the little area where we drop our paper clutter in as it comes into our home and count it all out and go through it and get rid of all of the stuff that we don't need, such as flyers, ads, and mailers that get sent to us on a regular basis, expired coupons that I know that I'm definitely never going to use, old receipts that I can declutter once I've finished putting them into the budget, and any birthday, thank you, or greeting cards that we determined that we don't want to keep as a memory. Wow, we are rocking and rolling on this, folks. We're already up to 60. So I'm gonna put these in here, and then I tried to make my hair look cute for this video, but the heat and the humidity is just devastating it. So I'm gonna go put my hair in a ponytail really quick, and I'll be right back. I should have known better. That's what I get for trying to look cute. It is 77 degrees in here. I don't know if you can see this. 50% humidity, and I am roasting. I'm gonna guzzle some water really quick. After decluttering our various junk drawers, we are now up to 70 items, and I decided that before I move on to the next space, I wanted to pull out my purse and see if there was anything in there that I could declutter. And while I generally keep my purse pretty minimal, I was able to find a receipt and 2 empty bottles of hand sanitizer that had been rattling around in there for a while. And then moving on to the next space, this cabinet below our family command center has kind of become a designated space for me to put away things that I know that I want to declutter, but that I either don't have time to deal with or I specifically want to talk about in a video because let's face it, my job is teaching people about how to declutter and simplify their home. And as you can see, we've had quite a few items land in this cabinet over the past months to year or so, including 4 glasses that I actually found at the thrift store about a year ago when we were moving into this home. And when I purchased them originally for $1 a piece, I thought that I was going to be able to get them clean. But unfortunately, I didn't realize that they were permanently etched. And so since then, every time I've gone to a thrift store, I've been looking at the glasses trying to replace those. But unfortunately, every time that I've gone, either they didn't have enough glasses, or I didn't like the style, or they were just as stained and etched or dirty as the other ones. So in the end, I recently bit the bullet and bought some new ones from Target because I got tired of explaining to people at the parties and barbecues that we were hosting that our glasses were not in fact dirty, that they were just etched. So that is where this box came from. And then as far as this thing on top, I'm not really sure what this is, which means it's a UFO or an unidentified floating object, and I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of it. And then we have a plate and a bowl that have both gotten a small chip in them, and therefore we are going to get rid of them for safety reasons. And some multiplication and division flashcards that Dee had been doing drilling with for extra practice at home for a while, but that he no longer needs. I just realized that technically between all of these flashcards, I have over 400 items right there if I were to count each card individually, but I'm not going to do you guys like that. I'm just going to count one box, one box, one box. So each of these is just 1, 2, 3. And then let's go through everything else and see what that gets us to. Okay, so because all of those items added up to 14, I'm going to color in the 80 and then I'm going to have 4 left over. So the other day when I was out grocery shopping, as they were bagging my groceries, this strap on my Chicago reusable bag actually broke off. It ripped through a hole right there. I don't know how well you can see that. The good thing is that I already have enough reusable bags that I don't need to buy something to replace this item. And in fact, reusable bags are one of the things that I said I wasn't going to spend money on in the no-buy list that I created at the beginning of the year. And I guess I could repair this, but one of the things that we need to remember when we're decluttering is we only have a limited amount of time and energy to address projects like fixing things or mending things when they break or wear out. And so, although I technically probably could try to fix this, and I'm not sure if I could do a good job, in fact, I have other things, other projects that are more pressing on my to-do list. And so knowing that I don't really have the time and the bandwidth to address this right now, I'm going to go ahead and declutter this. And then speaking of broken items, let me show you something else that recently broke and needed to be replaced that I'm getting rid of in a different way. I mentioned in my previous video that our rice cooker suddenly stopped working, which was really disappointing because we'd only had it 2 years. So because it was out of the warranty period, we decided to replace it and we went for a brand that was significantly cheaper, but also had great reviews. So as you can see, I still have the box for this rice cooker. And because it's a really good rice cooker, and I'm sure that there's somebody out there who probably has the ability to fix this easily, although I don't, what I'm thinking of doing is trying to give this away in a buy nothing group for free and see if anyone wants to get it and try to fix it on their own. And that way, not only am I able to get rid of it, but then maybe somebody else is able to very quickly and easily fix something so that they can have a high-end rice cooker that they wouldn't otherwise be able to afford. And then another thing that I also want to declutter that I recently replaced is this non-stick pan. And I am keeping the lid because I use it with some of my other pots. But as for the pan, the non-stick surface wasn't working so well. So I replaced it with a field skillet that I had been eyeing for a while. So just like the rice cooker box, the box that I mentioned at the beginning of this video is something that I'm going to keep because when I buy high-end stuff like that, I like to keep the boxes when I have space for them because it helps with moving and if I ever want to give away or resell that item. Now, as we go through this cabinet, I just want to talk about some of the things I'm getting rid of because I used to struggle a lot with decluttering consumable items like this in my kitchen and pantry, not only as a former hoarder, but also as someone who wants to be frugal and who hates wasting food. But once, when I was talking to my therapist about this, she said something that completely blew my mind, which is that it's better and healthier for me to toss things like that in the trash than it is for me to treat my body and my home like a trash can. And so now, when it comes to letting go of things like expired products and spices that we don't enjoy eating, or things like this bottle of honey that crystallized over time and I was tired of fighting with, and that I've already replaced with a new bottle, consider this a gentle reminder that you have permission to let items like that go. So these are some coffee filters that I had purchased because we ran out of our typical brand that we like, but unfortunately we found that these didn't work as well and they just kind of broke. So we only used 2 out of them, I think. So this is actually 38 items right here that I'm getting rid of. And then these are some accessories that I had purchased for our Chemex coffee maker. This is a sleeve to try to help keep the coffee warmer. And then this is a lid that's supposed to try to accomplish the same. And unfortunately, we still didn't find that it kept our coffee warm enough. So we've switched to a different thing. Here it is. So we switched to this, and this is what we use straight into our glasses or our insulated canisters. Now I mostly use my Chemex as a vase for flowers, so I no longer need either of these accessories. Also, please tell me that we're not the only family where someone will finish something and then just leave the box or bag or whatever it is behind in the refrigerator or pantry. And then I'll happen upon it looking for something to eat and then only to realize, whoops, it's empty. Surely we can't be the only family that does this. I have to say, not only am I surprised by just how much clutter there is to get rid of, but along with the relief and satisfying sense of lightness and unburdening that I'm feeling as I decide to let it go, I'm also finding it surprisingly satisfying to count each item and color those numbers on my decluttering checklist printable as I go. It sure does amp up my motivation and make it a whole lot more fun to declutter. Okay, so now that we've gone through my kitchen and pantry, the next space I want to tackle with you is my living room. So I emptied out this little basket, and what I'm going to do is put my checklist inside along with my little highlighter and the pen that I'm using to stay on track. And we're going to head to the living room and see what we can find in there to declutter. So over here in the back corner of our living room, we have our Flybrary, which stands for Floor Library, because as of right now, we still don't own a bookshelf, and this is where we presently keep our books. And so far, the system has worked surprisingly well for us. And I do want to point out that a significant portion of our books are library books. I would say a good 50% or more of them, especially things like cookbooks and children's books, which we tend to read a lot of, but don't necessarily want to read over and over again and therefore don't need to own. However, I will say that I checked with my husband about this book, which has been following us around for several years, that he got once for a leadership conference many years back and a couple jobs back, if I'm not mistaken, and he's never touched it since then. And I asked him if we could finally let it go, and he said yes. So we're going to get rid of this book. And then my son also said that he wanted to let go of this book because he got it for his school and he read it along with his classmates. But while he enjoyed it, he knows it's not something that he wants to read again. Okay, so now that we've gone through the books, moving over here, we've also got an area where clutter tends to collect. Okay, so over here we have this cute little alcove. Alcove? I just realized I've never actually heard this word said out loud and I don't know how to say it.
How to pronounce this word?
Alcove. Alcove. You learn something new every day. So we have this little alcove in our living room that doesn't really have a designated property or space, I guess you could say. And so as you can see, I've been using it to store my yoga mat and some of the boys' video game stuff and some games that we play over on the coffee table. But it also tends to collect some random things like this. I know we're keeping because this is a slingshot that we use to scare away hawks from my squirrels. True story. But these other things I know that the boys said that they don't want anymore. So like Didi got this from school a while back and he was really disappointed with how good the magnets were. So he said that we could go ahead and get rid of this and just some like broken keychains, fidget toys, goodness knows what, and some puzzle pieces. Okay, so after going through all of those things, I counted everything up and then marked it down on my checklist. And then the next space I want to head to is my bedroom and then also our main closet area. So right here behind the door, I want to dig into some of these bags that I have up here. And basically what's stored up there is our sports and swimming related items. So first thing I decluttered was a bag that had gotten a hole in it. I already put it in the little white basket there. And then I remembered I had another small bag that had come with my boys' fins for their swimming that had gotten ripped as well. So I went ahead and got rid of that. And then some leftover accessories from my wall grid vision board that I just never got around to using. I also have a pair of underwear that are too small for me that I'm going to get rid of. And then my uncle, when he came to visit us, brought this Patagonia half zip or quarter zip or whatever, thinking that my husband could wear it. But my husband wears a much smaller size than this. This is a size XL. So I'm probably going to sell this. And then kind of a funny one is 2 pieces of toilet paper because we brought these when we moved from our last furnished townhouse rental. We just kind of grabbed them as we were leaving and they got tossed in with all of the stuff in the rush to move. But we've had these for a year and never been able to find a use for them. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get rid of them. And then up here on this shelf of our swim stuff, there is also a kid's swim cap that we had back when my kids were doing swimming in Germany, and we brought it here, but then we got new plain black ones, and these are a little bit too babyish for my boys, so they no longer want this. As I was counting everything, I realized that my uncle actually brought 2 wire hangers along with this sweater, so I'm counting those as well. So that's 11 more items that I found in our closet. Another thing I did was I also asked my husband and my children if they had anything in their rooms or closets that they knew they didn't want anymore. So my husband was able to contribute 3 shirts that he no longer needed, and my kids went through their rooms and closets and found quite a few things that they could get rid of as well. So here's where we're currently at right now, just shy of 200 items. And that's why I saved the most cluttered spot for last, because I knew that if I wanted to get rid of a lot of clutter at once and knock off several hundred numbers on my list, that meant that I was going to have to tackle the art, paper, and end of school clutter that my kids brought home from the end of the school. So, for example, my son ripped his case-it. His case-it broke open, the zipper broke, and so that's a big item that we can get rid of. His brother said that his headphones are no longer working, so that's another broken item that we need to get rid of right there.
So after going through all that stuff with them, we were able to get rid of hundreds of items, both big and small. And I have to say, once I hit 500 items, I just decided to stop counting after that. But as I was sitting there filling in the rest of my decluttering checklist, I came to two big realizations. One was about just how much clutter it's possible for us to accumulate when we procrastinate about making decisions, feel guilty or ashamed about the waste we're creating, or are too afraid to let go. Even in a minimalist home like mine, there was still so much to get rid of. But the other aha moment I had was the moment that I realized just how far I've come along this decluttering and minimalism journey of mine, because it once took me 3 years to declutter my way to a simplified home, and now it only takes me 3 hours to accomplish the same. And I'm not saying this to brag, but rather to give hope to those of you out there who also struggle with clutter and mess, and who aren't naturally clean or tidy people like me. I want you to know that if I can do this, you can too. And if you're looking for more help with that, don't forget to download the free 500 Things to Declutter checklist that I've linked down below, or check out one of these helpful decluttering videos next. And I'll see you next week. Until then, take care. Bye bye.